Welcome to What the Health? The podcast where anything health is fair game. There's a lot of garbage advice and misinformation out there that can leave you feeling stumped and stuck. Together, let's sift through the sea of BS and find the best ways to get healthy and stay healthy. Join the team as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan Turo, Angela Turo, and Dr. Riley Brown.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health. I am Dr. Dan here with my two co-hosts,
Angela,
Dr. Riley.
Welcome to our first video recorded podcast. So I know,
feel like Anchorman.
Getting used to this.
I might read everything on the prompter.
So, as you guys know, we're here for informational purposes only, in no way offering individualized medical advice. So always talk to your trusted healthcare providers before making any changes to your routines. But with that being said, actually today we are kind of offering some...
We're offering some good advice.
Yes.
Yeah, you can take this. So we're talking about resolutions again. Here we are, January. Man, these years tick by. Right? I hear that all the time. The older I get, the faster time goes.
Which is terrifying because it's already going very fast.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So, and of course I had to support, the Nittany Lions because hopefully, let's see, the Nittany Lions are playing and Ohio State is playing.
Yep. My Scarlet Grail.
Yeah, he forgot to bring his mug.
And by the time this comes out, this could all be completely irrelevant.
That's right.
So don't worry. It's early January right now.
So we're going to talk about resolutions. And I think one of the most important things, before we dive into the subtleness, like the goals, we're just going to give some very specific goals that maybe you can grab one that just inspires you to jump on it. Anytime we set goals, we always talk about setting small goals, small baby steps, because baby steps over a long period of time, that's where you get the big results. So many people this time of year, what happens? They set big goals. Yeah. They want to, hit the ground running January 1st or January 2nd.
Want to be a completely new person.
Yeah, new person.
I've never gone to the gym before. I'm going to go to the gym every day, and I'm going to, all of a sudden.
By the time, what is it, like 2 weeks or a week and a half?
Second Friday.
The second Friday of January is like resolution.
Winter's Day.
Winter's Day.
Yeah, which is we're Tuesday today. Yeah, so a couple days down the road here. So we don't want that to be happen for you. So setting small baby goals that you can, absolutely, commit to doing on a daily basis. Maybe it only takes a couple minutes a day, whether it's, walking, doing some jumping jacks, doing some push-ups, sit-ups, whatever the case is, setting small goals over a long period of time. But the other important piece, I was having a conversation with my teenage son, who, again, we're just talking about like, hey, do you have any New Year's resolutions? And he said, hey, I want to get stronger. It's like, okay, that's great, but not only are we going to get specific with it, but why? Why do you want to get stronger? And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss when they're setting their goals is not understanding or getting to the bottom of why they want to do that goal. It's one thing, to say, hey, I want to be out of pain. It's one thing to say, hey, I want to have more energy. But it's a lot different to say, I don't feel like I'm showing up for my family, for my friends, for my work. I'm not as present. I'm constantly in pain. So I want to make sure that I can, be there for, completely present with my kids, whether it's at their event or at home with them, whether I, want to show up for a relationship, show up for work. So, getting to the why behind, or I don't want to live like my parents. I see how we talk about that all the time. We see so many people, get into their 50s, 60s, 70s and just go downhill very quickly over, 3 to 5 years, when they hit a certain point. So it's like, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, if that's important to you and you want to live a much healthier, last decade or two of life, we need to put the steps in place now. Whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you need to put the steps in place now so that you don't become the statistic moving forward. So anything else on intro to goals that you'd like to discuss? Because you work with a lot of people on setting goals.
Yeah, and I do. I think that that's the biggest thing is, always talk about the why. And I think the big one with this time of year is weight loss. Everyone, it's like January 1 comes and all of a sudden now everybody sets these weight loss goals. And again, not that, there's certainly, 2/3 of Americans need to lose weight. It's not, it's not saying that you shouldn't set a weight loss goal or strive for that. But I think a lot of people do that because they just think they should, or I want to weigh X amount of pounds. Okay, like why exactly? Like how, like you said, how will your life be different if you lose those 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds, whatever it is that you need to lose or feel like you need to lose? How will your life be different? Is it that you need more energy? Is it that you're having a hard time moving around, but playing with your kids? I talk to people about they can't get on and off the ground with their kids or grandkids. Things like that. So, really focusing in on, I think our society just pushes weight loss so much. It's a probably $billion-dollar industry between, fitness. It drives me, that's a whole nother thing is like fitness being marketed as a weight loss tool, or exercise being marketed as a weight loss tool. But yeah, between, those exercise pitches and pills and supplements and surgeries, it's constantly like, here's the next way to lose weight. Here's the next way to lose weight. But at the end of the day, if you don't have daily disciplines, it's that weight's going to come back no matter what form of weight loss you use, whether it's a short term or long term. If you don't stick with it, weight is a result of your lifestyle. So it's really about making those small lifestyle changes, and then the weight loss will come, whether it's quickly or slowly. But it's, if you get into that lifestyle where you are healthy and you're moving and you're doing the things that we're going to talk about here, the weight is going to be at a healthy level for you. So that's I always just try to shift people's mind away from that. And I know, trust me, I'm the same way. There's mornings I step on the scale and I'm like, I don't like that number.
I don't like that.
And then it's like I have to just remind myself, okay, but still going to the gym, still eat, it's like, just so it's like, well, how do you feel? Like, is it saying that number and you feel like crap? Well, then you need to, let's change some things up. But sometimes it's like, I'm a woman. Sometimes that number just goes up and I'm like, remind myself, it'll come back down. So
water.
Yeah, I know. It's
an SOB.
It's hormones. They're
the SOB. We did a podcast on that.
Yes.
Dr. Riley doesn't have that problem yet because he's not 30.
Yeah, I was going to say, right?
I usually be as big as him.
I still got 3 years. I'm good.
Although he did have the baby, so he's got the stress factors in place.
The dad bods.
That's right. Dad bod's coming. But no,
he's not going to get the dad bod because he's going to practice.
That's right. That's right, and he's going to stick to them. Well, and I can share my own experience too, because I was definitely overweight the past couple of years. I actually say since my second son, I haven't lost my pregnancy weight from my second son.
That was third is
9, and my third is now 4. My second son is 9. So yeah, but again, I definitely stepped on the scale January 1st, and it was the highest it has ever been. And it was like, whoa. But not only that, but again, it's like, how is that impacting my sleep, my energy level, then that impacts your motivation to move, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you don't want to move when you feel like crap. So, and again, it's still relatively decent energy levels compared to a lot of people that we see come into our office.
You have an active job, which is
correct. And that helps.
Yeah,
that helps. I can't imagine if I sat and got less than 5,000 steps a day and I wasn't up moving all day long.
And also
not active in my free time. But just to share my own experience, again, it hasn't even been a week since I started my resolutions, and all I have been doing is really logging my food so that I can keep a good count on, how many carbs, how many fats, how many proteins that I'm having, and trying to cycle that through in a healthy way. Again, that's something that again, there's a lot of different research. There's a lot of different information out there. We've talked about fasting before, but I'm just trying to do it in a very controlled, healthy manner that works for me. And again, I'm not so tight that like, oh shoot, I had 5 more carbs than I should have today. No, it's not a big deal, but it's trying to keep it in a percent range, and cycling that through. So all I've been doing is logging my food. And again, there's so many different apps.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even realize that my Fitbit. Yeah, I didn't even realize that because I was ready to download another food log, and I was like, wait a minute, I should look in this app. And sure enough, there's a way to log it. And nowadays it's like all the food's in there. Like, and it doesn't have to be exact. Like, hey, I'm having beef, ground beef. I'm going to saute it up. You put it in there. You put the weight in there, whether it's ounces, cups, grams, however you want to weigh it. And boom, it kicks out the macros, the carbohydrate, protein, fat content for you. You log it in there.
Dr. Dan's just catching up with the 21st century.
But so again, going back to my experience over the last less than a week, it'll be a week tomorrow since I started this. My heart rate has come down significantly. My heart rate variability has gone up about 10-20% since I started all of this. And again, we talk about this in other episodes, although we should talk about it more. But heart rate variability is a great just measurement tool for overall health and well-being. So that has gone up. My breathing rate has come down 1 breath per minute. So I was averaging about 13 breaths per minute. I'm down to 12. Resting heart rate, I mentioned that. So it's like all of these factors. And then like they have a stress, a readiness score, like a daily readiness score. I was averaging around 73 before I started this. I'm already up over 80 now. And it's on a scale of 0 to 100. So again, some of these scales are arbitrary, but it's all data. It's all data driven. And there are, again, you don't have to get a Fitbit, but there's so many different watches and measurement devices now.
Well, and the key is you're comparing that to yourself.
Correct.
So it's not like your 70 might not be the same as my 70, but
we're seeing
personal.
And we're seeing improvement with it with less than a week of making these changes. And again, I've already felt my my motivation to work out, my my energy in the morning, just waking up. So, and again, it's like I'm not working out a lot. I probably worked out on average 20 minutes a day over the last 6 days. So it doesn't. I didn't even work out yesterday other than my steps. For
you're still meeting a specific criteria. Like
correct.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like your goal is a specific criteria. It doesn't mean you have to work out an hour every day.
Correct. There's a measurement to it. Yeah. So that's the other point. In addition to your why, there should be a measurement, right, to your goal. So I mean, I know you do. You talk a lot with the with working out and movement. So I think now we can kind of talk about like what are some of the categories that people should look. And again, you're always comparing to yourself, right? Because if you're 1% better tomorrow than you are today, then you 365% in a full year. That's a pretty massive change. So even 0.5%, you're more than 100% improved by the end of the year. So when we talk about like categories and like trying to put numbers, it's really important to make sure that you're measuring, you're putting a number to your goal or to what you're trying to improve. So I think the first thing Dr. Riley has been talking to a lot of patients about is water, right?
Yeah, water. A lot of people, the body is made up 60% water. So the fact that some people don't drink it at all, it just blows my mind.
That really,
I think
it's baffling.
That's a good start. So if you don't drink any water, try and just drink, 8 ounces and see how you feel. I mean, it's a great change. It's the whole body needs water. So there's not one system within the body that does not use it. And then from like a spinal perspective as a chiropractor, a lot of people have these aching low back pain that gets worse with time, throughout the day. And that's the discs between the bones. Like if you drink plenty of water and those discs get well hydrated, like the spine's going to love you for it. So that's just kind of my view why I push that water so much from a chiropractic standpoint.
Yeah, literally every person coming in like this around the holidays, and then this past week I hear Dr. Riley asking, "Have you been drinking enough water? Are you drinking water?"
Cramps.
Oh yeah.
Random aches and pains, all that can be negated by
constipation.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
like your digestive system needs
water, absolutely.
Well, and especially like that's a good point because again, this time of year, people making diet changes. So if you've gone from not eating a lot of fiber, so not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and now all of a sudden you have this huge fiber increase, and you're not increasing your water, that fiber is going to sit in your system like a brick, as opposed to being a squishy sponge.
Yeah.
Like it's so important because that. If your body's not used to it and you're not properly hydrating, then that fiber is actually going to make you feel terrible versus doing what it's supposed to do, which is help clear out the digestive tract.
And I'm so glad you brought that analogy up with the squishy sponge because, and this is about like getting started with hydration, right? Because if you think of like a dry sponge and you just pour some water on top of that dry sponge, what happens to it?
Kind of
runs right off, right? Because it's so dry, it doesn't have the water molecules in it to absorb that water. So that's it. When you are starting off, if you have been a chronically dehydrated person and you're just starting off, you might not feel good drinking a lot of water, like 8, 10, 16 ounces. That might like hurt your stomach. It's just like, you might feel totally bloated, but so what we say is like you start slow, get up instead of drinking, 1 to 2 glasses first thing when you wake up, which is what everyone should do. That should be the ideal that you get to before you have anything else. Drink a cup or 2 of water, but start off with like 3 to 4 ounces. Just have a half cup, that you can fill up at the sink when you wake up, or have your water bottle next and just take a couple sips first thing when you wake up out of bed. So taking that dry sponge versus if you take a sponge and put it under water and allow it to absorb some water, so now it's wet, okay, and then you wring it out, but you still have it still moist, and now you pour water into it. What happens? That water is absorbed right into it, and that's what happens to your cells. When your body and fiber in your system, when it's moist, it's like now those water molecules, because everything is hydrated, actually attracts more water to it. So it's very important to start slow when you're adding that water. But do you have a recommendation, Doc? In terms of like the goal to get to?
It's kind of, I guess it would be based off of where they're at. Like, if they're not drinking any water, to, aim for that small kind of incrementation at the beginning. But I don't know, I think there's a lot of good apps out there, or even water bottles that can kind of track specific goals for you.
Yep.
I haven't personally looked into apps. I think I do a decent job of drinking enough water. But a lot of people have like the Stanleys, and those are like 6.
So that's So if you get a water bottle, what size. So this is 40 ounces. Yeah. I drink 3 of these a day. I also am very active. Don't go from nothing to 120 ounces a day. You will hate me. But I know I need to drink 3 of these a day. So I kind of know like one needs to be done by lunch. If I do my 6 a.m. workout, one's done by the time I'm done my workout. But so 1 by lunch, then I'm 1 kind of throughout the, lunchtime, afternoon, and then 1 through the evening. And I know I have my, I got mine. And again, some days it might be 2.5, some days it might be 3.5, but on average, it's kind of what I aim for. But I have found that so helpful, is to get a water bottle that what size it is, whether it's 16, 24, 32, and then exactly how many times you need to fill it up throughout the day. That's the easiest way to track.
And again, it's not rocket science. If there's a little bit left at the, and then you go and fill it back up, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a couple ounces difference. It's like in general, it doesn't have to be an exact science. Like your body has this amazing ability to adapt. But again, in general, grab a bottle, knowing what the ounces are, and okay, you need to fill that up 3 or 4 times and drink that throughout your day. And just have it with you. It's like just getting in the habit of having it with you, and then you will drink more water.
Yeah, the number of people, it's amazing. The number of my clients again, people that are coming to work out that don't have water bottles. I think that's going to be our next thing we need to start.
I think that's smart. Yeah.
Because and when I tell them that, I'm like, oh, well, just get a water bottle that how much it is, and they come back, they're like, oh wow, yeah. I'm like, again, this is just baffling to me that people have just never thought to. And again, I don't know if it's just water bottles are associated with sports, so people who don't consider themselves like sporty or athletic feel weird carrying. I don't know. But they have all the different styles of things now. The Yetis, the Stanleys, the fancy lady mugs.
Fancy lady mugs.
So get whatever ones with straws. When it's like
pick what you like and just do it.
Keep it with you. So that's the biggest thing, because
I think, you could always go specific numbers. Like if you're an analytic person, then go for the average. But, I think urine color is a great test for how much water you're drinking. If it's completely clear, you can probably back off a little bit. If it's extremely yellow, then you need to drink more. I think that's a great determining factor for assessing where you're at with hydration.
Yeah, frequency too. If you're going 4 or 5 hours and you haven't peed, you need to drink more water because again, it's going through your system. And and again, at the beginning when you're drinking a lot of water, you haven't before, you actually go a lot more frequently. Like,
because you're not absorbing it.
Yeah, you're not absorbing it, right? It's rolling off that dry sponge. So But that's not the norm then. It's like once your body starts getting hydrated, you can drink more and you won't urinate out as much because your body, and hopefully you're moving too. So you're burning off that water through activity and sweat as well. So,
but if you're one of those people, you're like, just tell me how much to drink. Half your body weight in ounces is kind of a standard. Now I always tell people with the caveat, if you're extremely overweight, that can end up being too much because if you have excess muscle, you need more water. If you have excess fat, that doesn't necessarily require more hydration.
So lean body mass.
And so again, I'd say like your idea, what you think you should weigh, half that in ounces. Or it's 2.7 liters or 3.7 liters, 2.7 liters for women, 3.7 liters for men, but that's total fluid intake. So that also takes into account, coffee and even just food from food. So we get water
fruits and
from
vegetables have a lot
fruits and vegetables, soups, things like that. So again, that's it doesn't have to necessarily be that much water, but if that gives you kind of an idea, so like say like 2 liters of water for women, 3 for men, you're probably getting the other, 0.7 from your foods and other intakes. So again, gives you kind of a starting point. But if you probably have heard the 8 to 10 cups a day, that's where that basic recommendation. And again, if you're doing nothing, working your way up to that 8 is a fantastic starting point. If you go from nothing and work your way up to 64 ounces, that you have made huge improvements.
So grab your water bottle, drink more water. Okay, if you haven't, so make that an easy step. Just carry your water bottle with you.
And I'm sure we all had our water this morning before our coffee.
I did. I had at least half a cup. half a mug.
Half of my thing, which is probably 25 ounces.
I'm so proud of this. Drink your water.
Was that Ron Swanson who was like, I drink, I get water from ice and bourbon.
There's water or scotch or something.
There's water and scotch. Anyway, we're not promoting that. So number 2. So we got through the water. Number 2, eat real food. Real food. I did this last year. I did a 90-day Whole Foods. Again, we don't promote any one specific program in our office because it's really about, there's so many out there. So it's about finding the one that works for you. And
there's so many out there because they obviously have worked.
Yes, and they have worked for.
They wouldn't still be promoted if they weren't working for somebody. So
100%. So I did Whole Food last year for like 90 days. And all I ate, nothing out of a box, nothing artificial, sweetener, nothing. It was all real food, whether it was chicken, potato, whatever the vegetable was.
You could pick it up and identify what it was.
Correct.
Without reading the label.
Yes. Potato.
Steak. You'll notice there aren't any food labels on produce. Because it's like broccoli. Oh, that's broccoli. I didn't need to look at a label.
Although with some of the logging of my food, it would be nice to know the macros. And sometimes they do put them on depending on the label.
Yeah.
And when we say macros, we're talking about carbohydrate, fat, and protein, by the way. But anyway, eat real food. And that's all I've been doing to start this year off is just we've gone through the holidays. We've eaten so many cookies, so much alcohol. Even though I guess you could argue that alcohol is natural, but it's and so much candy. Just there's so much processed stuff. Again, going all the way back to starting at the end of October, we had you have your Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, and so it's like we're in the new year here. You've done 3 months of nothing but putting garbage into your system. So hopefully you've done an okay job of limiting that. But now it's like eat the real food, and so when it comes down to it, that will make it just. Doing that for 30 days, 60 days, and making that a habit of, hey, I'm going to eat 80% of my diet is going to be real. And then every now and again, you have a snack here or there. Yeah, you have a little ice cream, you have a sweet or whatever. But again, that can't become the norm. And unfortunately, that did for me last year. It's like, it wasn't, it was like, instead of a once a week thing, it was like an everyday thing. Oh, I'm going to have a cookie, or I'm going to have a little scoop of ice cream or whatever, or a big scoop of ice cream. So eating real food. And if you are not a person that does food prep, honestly, it's not hard. Sometimes we build this stuff. We just are so afraid of like doing it.
And I think I think people, you think it has to be some big master, every meal has to be some big masterpiece. Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
It's like when people ask me, we put recipe cards out in the office, and people always ask me, they're like, "Oh, are these yours?" I'm like, absolutely not. If it has more than 5 steps, I'm not following that recipe. I'm like some Himalayan salt, pepper, and garlic is pretty much what is the basis
Chicken
of
or beef in a pan, fish in a pan.
I do a lot of things.
Chop up some veggies, put it in a pan, or have it raw.
It really doesn't have to be, this great eggs. I'm like, oh my God, eggs are like a go-to staple.
Yeah, when you eat real food, it's pretty simple.
It's actually really simple when you
get into these complex.
Well, the frozen stuff, you gotta get an air fryer out or something.
When you get into those complex meals and stuff like that, you throw all these added oils and stuff. And that's when you run into trouble. If you just make a piece of meat, veggies, and a little bit of carbs, you're fine.
Exactly. And I would say I would even take your challenge one step further and say, try to go 30, if 30 days is too much, try to go a week and only eat food that you prepared yourself. Because that's the other thing I personally have really noticed is like, if I eat out, even if it's quote unquote, something, again, meat, no. Chipotle. I couldn't even tell you last time I was at Chipotle. But even if I get something that's meat, veggies, it's like, you don't know what type of oil they're using. Yeah. You don't know how much salt they're putting on it. You don't know, it's just, and I noticed the difference. Even when I eat, again, even going through the holidays, eating other people's cooking, it's like, you don't know how much
butter, oil, salt.
And it's like, and I personally notice a huge difference when I get away from the eating out and just focus on, and I've even had that experience with, I've tried different, those, ready-made meals that are I'm not going to call out anyone in particular, but the ones that are marketed as supposed to be healthy. And I noticed, I'm like, when I started really looking at the label,
a sodium in them.
A ton of sodium, sugar. They add a crap load of sugar to stuff. Stuff that I never like salmon, and they'll put some kind of sugary. I'm like, I just will eat salmon with garlic and lemon. I don't need sugar on my.
Brown sugar.
I want my salmon to taste like salmon, not taste like sugar. Yeah. So again, you have to be careful with those things too. They're gonna, and then when things are mass marketed, there are definitely healthy ones out there, but your best option is going to be, buy the potato and cook it yourself. Buy the chicken and cook it yourself.
Last night, and again, it's like, I was telling my wife, because my wife does the majority of food prep in our house. But I was like, one thing that I've been trying to help her with is like, hey, I'm going to go down to the freezer. I'm going to pull something out of the freezer the night before so that it's thawed and ready to go. Because that's the other thing. It's like, if you're not prepared and you get home from a long day of work or school or whatever the case, and now it's like, oh, well, now what do I want to do? And it's like, if you're not prepared with real healthy food, then you go to the easy, right? You go to the freezer and you pull something that's, fried out and, you put some oil on it, put it in the microwave, something that's not going to be as healthy of an option. So I've been trying to help her with that, but she was asking, she's like, well, what do you want done with the ground meat? I'm like, look, just cook the ground meat up however you want to prepare it for the family. Again, don't add, just season it however you'd like to, if you want to do like tacos or something, but just cook the ground meat up. And we had like probably 2 pounds of ground meat, cooked it up in a pot. I got home. She was out at a basketball game with our son. I got home. The meat was there. So all I had to do was go in. I grabbed a couple leaves of lettuce, put 2 cups of ground meat, couple leaves of lettuce, a scoop of sour cream, and homemade salsa that we had made from a previous time with a friend. So, boom, plate of taco salad, within, after you consider the cook time for the meat, which is probably 10 minutes for, 10, 15 minutes for ground beef. I had a full plate of food, inside of 3 minutes. And it was absolutely delicious. So that's the other thing. When you're eating real healthy food regularly, real food tastes amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the one thing I've really been noticing the last couple of weeks. I'm like, man, I'm like just missed eating healthy, like missed eating the way that that I enjoy eating. And it's like, it's like those, everything has been, every piece of fish and veggies and like just been tasting so good.
Yeah. I like that challenge though. If you
1 week,
prep your own meals, and again,
eat nothing that you did not prepare yourself.
Yeah. If you got a spouse or partner that you're with, it's like, offer to prep the meal for, for the, 2 of you. If you've got a family, in my case, do something to help with the meal prep, but do something to be more engaged with your food. And that food awareness, I think will go a long way. And you'll notice a difference in your energy level and your sleep and your digestion. There will be a difference there.
Yeah.
I think one more thing for the food is like, I think I saw an 80-20 rule, like eat good 80% of the, nobody's going to eat perfect. Don't try and hold yourself.
I was going to say, there's a few out there.
And then that's when you run
the rock.
And then you run into comparisons and you can't be there. But 80-20, like, eat healthy, eat good 80% of the time, and give yourself that little 20% grace to where, if you go out, enjoy maybe something, but make sure you stick to that 80% and don't let that flip.
And again, it's like we talked about fasting before in the past. We're not going to spend time on today, but it's like, maybe on a day, on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday where you, feast a little bit and, have that extra treat. Make the day after a fasting day. And if you don't want to fast all day, maybe it's like, okay, well, I'm going to skip breakfast and go, so I stop eating at, 8, 9, 10 o'clock if you're having a late night snack, and then go until, lunchtime the next day. So you actually have a full 12 hours of where you're digesting, certainly drinking water in there, but now you've actually had the time, to digest that, and then you get a good healthy meal in there and let it cycle all over again. So your body works in cycles, right? So you have to, give it the opportunity to cycle and not just, block up the system with, constant unhealthy choices. So, all right. So what's the next one? So we did water, we did real food. What's next?
Movement and fitness. So we talked a little bit about, already talked a little bit about moving, but so again, for the average person, we do not move nearly enough in the day. We've become very, very sedentary, and it's very, very detrimental to our health. So again, this time of year, the gym membership rate goes through the roof, and then we're having some set issues.
We're good.
By the time.
Am I brighter?
We have fun here. And then by the time this comes out, again, we're way past the resolution drop day, and the gyms will be back to. Sorry.
Our set's falling apart. We're on a quality
budget podcast.
Yeah, budget podcast. It'll get better.
Bearing with us. Anyways.
I'm going to go back and look at Joe Rogan's very first podcast. See what he did.
I'm sure it was better than this one.
No way.
Anyway, so yes, moving is a very, very important goal. But again, you need to be realistic in what kind of goals you're setting, and not say, okay, I didn't work out at all. I saw something on social media the other day. It was like, oh, I missed the gym this morning. That makes 5 years now. So if that resonates with you, then you're not going to go from not stepping foot in the gym for 5 years to being Mr. Everyday gym person. So you need to set realistic goals, whether it's, getting to the gym a couple days a week for an hour, or doing, 20 minutes a day. It's about finding what's going to work with you, your schedule, your personality, and your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. I mean, customization. I mean, even just the three of us have very different schedules, Angela, single woman. Well, you've got a hottie, but yeah, I mean,
Did you say a hottie or a hottie?
Well, probably both. Anyway, but so you live by yourself. You've got your cat. It doesn't take a lot of work. So Dr. Riley has an infant, and wife who works, evening shift. I've got 3 kids, somewhere. Somewhere one time, and a wonderful wife who keeps track of all. Because again, just the 3 of us, have very, very different schedules. So you have to customize your schedule to what works for you. We're very active, so we get a lot of steps around the office. I can get almost 10,000 steps, and some days
10,000 yesterday and didn't go to the gym.
Didn't go to the gym. Yeah, so it's like you can. Our job allows for that, but someone who's an accountant, we've had a couple accountants start recently with us. It's like, I guarantee they're not getting more than 4,000 to 5,000 steps in a day with sitting all day long. So it's like, you have to adjust and change what works for your schedule. And one of the things that I've been doing this year, and one of my little goals was, again, with my Fitbit, again, I did steps for a long time, just trying to get that minimum of 10,000 steps a day. But what I was noticing was I wasn't pushing my cardio very much. So it's like, because again, walking 10,000 steps, especially if it's like, okay, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, just walking around the office,
it's not getting your heart rate up.
Yeah, it's not getting your heart rate up. So there's something called zone minutes on this, where they basically measure, there's mild, there's moderate, and then there's peak activity, and it's based on where your heart rate falls. And so you get 1 zone minute if it's like mild or moderate, and then you get like 2 zone minutes if it's up around like high intensity or peak level. But my goal was to get 30 zone minutes every day, and so what that does then is it pushes me to do a little something, whether I go out and take a more rigorous walk. Mm-hmm. I had to shovel the driveway yesterday, and so I got 14,000 steps and, hit my zone minutes just from shoveling. Mm-hmm. So that's where, where are you at now? And ultimately, where do you want to get to?
Yeah. So. And that's when we talk about movement, there's so many different ways to move, and that's why it's really important, because you want a combination of all of them. And so it's about finding, but again, going from nothing. If you're that person that sits at a desk all day and gets 1,000 to 2,000 steps, trying to go from that to, again, being perfect is not going to work. So it's really figuring out, like, where do you feel like you're maybe having the most issue. So again, you said you spent last year really focusing on the steps. Now you're focused, you got that down. Yeah. Now you're focusing on the zone minutes. Like, that's a great way to do it. Focus on one thing at a time. I'm the opposite. I had no problem getting my exercise minutes, but I was noticing. So my goal for last year, 2024, I was noticing on the days I didn't exercise, my step count was abysmal. So my goal for 2024 was 10,000 steps every day. There were certainly some, again, I didn't get it, but I averaged for the month, like my monthly average was went from 11,000 to 14,000. So from 2023 to 2024. So big, again, that just meant being more mindful on my rest days of making sure I was still getting out for a walk, or doing something where I was getting those steps in. So it's just about finding the gaps, like what are you missing? And I think the one that we talk a lot about with people is a flexibility and mobility component. So, some people are, people have gotten better about going to the gym, or, tracking steps is becoming more common, but a lot of people don't take that time to actively and mindfully move your muscles and joints through their full range of motion. And we're seeing a lot of people that are coming to us regularly. I hear you guys having this conversation with them all the time. They're like, your scans look good, your spine's changing, but
they're still they're still in pain, or they're still struggling with something.
Stretch. It's like, exactly. And that goes whether you're completely sedentary or whether you're in the gym every day. It's like, you need to move. You need to.
I think that's almost a good goal to set, is like, make sure you're mobile before you get into that weight training or cardio that you really want to do. That's where we talk about making these big goals. Like, okay, I want to go to the gym. It's like, all right, well, make sure you are, well stretched, and like, make sure you get a good routine in that before you go and work these muscles. Because if these muscles are, underused or overused based on posture, if you don't stretch these out, you're going to either hurt it because it's weak, or you're going to hurt it because it's overused.
Yeah. That's a really good, and that's one thing that, one of our goals in the office is to really come up with a customized measurement system of analyzing kind of overall mobility for individuals, because there's a lot of things that we see, and shoulders and hips are, the biggest culprits, right? Those are the two ball and socket joints in the body, which means they have the biggest freedom of potential freedom of motion. But there's a lot of people who it's like they cannot lift their shoulder, above their head, and it's like, it's like you should be able to raise your arm, all the way up over your head, and a lot of people cannot. And when we talk about flexibility and mobility, you can kind of do both, right? You can add resistance, the stress on your system to grow and build muscle, tendon, and bone, in addition to adding mobility, just by taking, your workouts, your exercises through a full range of motion. So that's some of the things that we talk to people about, is like, can you even get down into a full squat position? And we were analyzing each other yesterday, and there was still some, definitely mild, weaknesses that could be improved upon. So it's like, even someone who, well, we'll say Angela's the elite athlete. I am not. Maybe once upon a time, but it's like, even at the elite level, there are things that you can improve upon. But starting from a sedentary, like less than 5,000 steps a day, what can you be doing? I had a conversation with a patient yesterday. It's like, she was talking about, she just started a new desk job. She wasn't at a desk job for many years. She started back at a desk job. So we talked about possibly getting a standing desk, and she said that was an option with where she worked. So we're going to talk about that. We said, even if you're sitting, like, I could be sitting here right now, here on video, and exercising my legs just by virtue of straightening my leg out and tightening my quad muscle, and then, putting it back. I can be we talk about butt crunches, like, so just activating, we did a whole podcast on core.
Oh yeah.
Just how you can
even just lifting, like marching while you're sitting, like just little steps. Again, it's like
you think about like the cartoons of like the big bodybuilders, where they did like the chest thing and boom, boom, boom on their pecs. It's like, well, we laugh at that, but like, men and women can do that.
Being able to have that kind of muscle
control, being able to tighten your chest. I'll never forget when I was, a teenager, and I started developing some musculature where I was able to actually activate my chest, without being under like a barbell or on a push-up, right? Because a lot of people think like, to activate a muscle, you've got to engage. Well, you can activate a muscle without having a weight associated to it. But again, there's a neuromuscular component that is learned, and that takes time, both in, just like with the water, you got to build up to it. It's like, it takes time to understand that neuromuscular connection and how to activate something like that. So, maybe it's something as simple as, working with someone like yourself, and it's like, how do I activate this muscle? I tell so many people to activate your core.
They don't know what
activate your core. How? What? What do I do?
Like, be like, do a sit up? I'm like, no. That's
It's absolutely right. So there's so much movement intelligence, I think, is what, people have, high IQs, people have emotional intelligence, but movement intelligence is absolutely a thing. And so being a kinesthetic learner, becoming a kinesthetic learner is very, very important to make sure that you know how to activate your body and move your body, because a lot of it, it's not even that people lost that ability, like they just never learned.
Oh yeah, like we never had to, because again, especially like your kids' generation now growing up, I mean, it's like everything's at your disposal. I mean, we at least grew up in the generation where we still went out and played and didn't have, we weren't raised by technology, but it's like now, I mean, gosh, it's becoming the norm to not move, to not have to do anything. Like, and it's scary. It's scary. Literally, I just rewatched the movie WALL-E the other day, and I'm like, that's literally where we're headed. I don't know if anyone has seen it.
I haven't seen that, but I've had so many people recommend it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the shits. Yeah, like I'm like, this is literally where we're headed, and it's terrifying. They're just like, sedentary. And that movie came out, I think,
early 2000s.
Which is scary because it's like predicted. So it's just it's about, because we don't have to anymore. Now it's about being mindful and about finding ways to incorporate it into your daily activity. And again, it's like, if you have kids, go run around with your kids. There's a need. I'm like, if you have a dog, take it for an actual walk. Don't just throw it out in the yard. You go out and throw a ball with, well, she won't let you not throw a ball with her on your lunch breaks, but that's not an option.
Yeah, she won't let me stay.
Yeah, go throw the ball around. I mean, just those simple movements, like you might sound silly, but like that adds up. I mean, last night I was at 9,500 steps last night, and it was about 10 o'clock. I was getting ready for bed. I literally sat there and marched in place until I'm like, I'm not missing.
That's a good thing. I think objective measurements for exercise is some of the best tools to have. Like for me, I'm a competitive person, and so I'm almost like competing against that number.
Yeah,
like I have
competing against yourself, really.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
And that's I love my Fitbit. I mean, exercise is a part of my life. I don't need, but I just love being able to go back and look and see and it's that extra, I mean, the internal motivation of how good I feel when I exercise will always get me to the gym, but then that's just that little extra external motivation, especially when you are kind of having those weeks where you're like, maybe I'm not doing my best, and then I can look back and be like, oh, look at everything I did. Like
like a week into this, again, getting back to my mood, like I'm excited to go home after this and like actually, go through a nice workout. Again, it's not going to be super heavy, but it's like just to activate. Like it doesn't take long to get to where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, moving and eating well and staying hydrated than not. So,
Yeah, I think, and again, I mean, we talk about it all the time, movement creates energy. So when you move your spine, you move your muscles, it's going to make you want to do it more. And I mean, I'm always amazed by the days, like, I allow myself maybe like a true lazy day, maybe once a month, where I just like Sunday, I don't get off the couch, I don't get on my PJs. It's like true lazy day. And it's not, usually it's at the point that I need it, but I'm always amazed. I'm like, I'm tired. I did nothing, and I'm more tired than the days that I am running from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. So I'm like, it is amazing how much, like, the more you do, you actually will create energy. Might not feel like it right off the bat, but eventually it will. You'll get that energy build up. So so pick a step. If you're not tracking your steps, it's a great way to start. Fitbits or so. And there's a ton of different trackers out there.
Yes.
But I mean, I know we both personally have Fitbits, and they're so affordable now. I mean, you can just get your version's a little even more. Does more than mine.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much it analyzes.
I mean, that's probably what I'll get when mine goes, but hey, it's holding on. This thing's been going for 3 years.
And I think the apps they're continually adding more, to it. It's the same technology, but their software, they're reading more data from the same information.
I've had every version of Fitbit from the original one, and they just keeps getting better, and
all of them are.
And
we're not. We don't get paid by them. So
it's just what I personally know. I don't know.
We're not sponsored.
No, we're not sponsored by it, unless you want to. But no, seriously, it's so easy to go get a tracker anymore. Everybody has smartphones now. They sync right to your phone. It's just such an easy way, because if you really don't know how many steps you're doing in a day, you might be unpleasantly surprised when you, like, I know my honey works from home, and if he didn't deliberately get up and take breaks and stretch and be like, he said he could get 500 steps in a day, because again, it's like he goes from, it's like bed, desk. It's like there's literally no movement required. So
we're partially Italian, so we automatically get 2,000 just from. I probably got 2,000 steps since we started this podcast.
He will get so mad because we'll spend an entire day together, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm at 10,000 steps." He's like, "I'm at 8,000." We've been together all. I'm like, my Italian steps.
Italian steps.
Yeah, we get bonus steps.
So anyway, pick something to to move or to add if you're having trouble with shoulder range of motion or hip range of motion, or again just and if you need someone to help you, set something, talk with us, give us give the office a call. We'll get you set up with Angela. Yeah. There are so many ways to just add. Just
adding a couple. Yeah. I mean, if you have a specific area like that, like hip or shoulder, adding just a couple movements per day can make a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
Even you mentioned kids. It's like getting down on the floor with if you have grandkids, a lot of times that's a big goal, is just being able to get down on the floor and get back up as a grandparent. Like that's all of that is important, and all of that kind of adds to a more healthy, vibrant, vital life. So just making sure that you're doing something on a daily basis. The steps, the zone minutes, the stretching, whatever the case, but add something to that moving, stretching. So I wanted to kind of transition into the stress, because you mentioned once a month I'll just just take a day where I just sit on the couch all day long. And so the stress reduction,
which is our next one.
Yes, the stress reduction, and again, it's like we cannot. I tell people all the time, like, we cannot eliminate the stress from your life. Stress is nor do you want to. Yes, because again, it really has a lot to do with your ability to adapt to it. So, put you under a healthy weighted barbell and, push up, your chest is going to get stronger. Put too much weight on that barbell and it goes down and crushes you, then you have injury. So, being exposed to a virus, in a little amount, in an amount that your body can recognize and fight off, it strengthens your immune system. Too much or too weak of a body, a little adaptation, now you're down for the count for a week, or, God forbid, in the hospital or worse. So it's like, being able to take on stress and adapt to it is literally the essence of life and health. We can't eliminate it, but there are ways to, I think when we call it stress reduction, it's more adaptation promotion or adaptation enhancement or, optimization, because, there are times, and again, we talk about the accumulation of stress in someone's life, right? Because so many times we can look on an X-ray and say, "Oh my gosh, did you play sports? Were you in a car accident?" And yes, all of the above. And it's like, there's an accumulation of stress that happens, and your body will reach a boiling point where, the tea kettle goes off and starts screaming. And the screaming is what, some sort of sign or symptom in the body, whether it's, elevated heart rate, or, chest tightness, or, indigestion, diarrhea, hey, you hurt your arm, you're having neck pain, you're having headaches, you're having tingling and numbness. Like, your body has reached the boiling point, and now it's starting to scream at you. Those signs or symptoms are signals that you have too much stress going on. So really, when we're talking about stress reduction, we're talking about how do you, open the release valve, kind of like on a pressure cooker, right? How do you open the release valve to let some of that out so that it doesn't accumulate? And again, a regular movement, everything we've talked to up to this point is a natural,
yeah.
stress reliever. Moving your body 10,000 steps, drinking water, eating real food. That's naturally reducing your stress, because eating a candy bar versus eating a piece of chicken, the candy bar is much more stressful on your body. So when we're talking about stress reduction, I think we're more gearing it towards like a mental, emotional stress reduction, because relationships can be very stressful. So what are some ideas, or what are some, thoughts or, habits that you've implemented to help with that mental, emotional stress adaptation?
I mean, I personally hit things, but
not people that we are aware of.
Boxing for years. Which honestly has been the absolute biggest stress reliever of my life. But again, I know that's not for everybody. But if you do feel like you walk around with your fists balled up all day long, or you clench your jaw, then that's actually your body looking for a physical outlet for your stress. So hey, give it a shot. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing is deep breathing, which we've done an entire podcast on, so go back and listen to that one. But it sounds silly, but we live in such a state of, we have that activation of the sympathetic nervous system, so that fight or flight. And so everything just gets so constricted, which just means we're breathing very shallow. That's where we're getting neck pain, chest pain, shoulder pain, all of that. So just implementing deep belly breathing, learning to breathe engaging your entire diaphragm, slowing your breathing down, controlling your breathing. It has such a huge, huge impact. Being able to switch you from that fight or flight stance to the parasympathetic, that rest or digest phase. So being able to do that in the middle of the day if you're stressed. I implement it when it's helped my road rage. I'm like, when I'm sitting when you hit that red light, you just don't have time to hit, or when the snow comes in that you just weren't planning, you didn't leave yourself the 10 extra minutes to clean out the car.
Practicing this morning.
I did. I'm like, where is it?
It's still snowing.
Yeah. I think breathing is huge for stress reduction.
And it's learning to breathe the right way and learning to control it. That I found, if there's nights I can't sleep, I just lay flat on my back and just implement that. So that's a big one that personally has worked for me. I find that, I think, again, because it also has that physical component to it. And then if you're the type that goes well into meditation. If you then like that mental, and you can there's plenty of guided meditations out there. Again, we talk about all the apps and stuff on your phone and things like that. So you can find a guided one. They have ones that are spiritual based, that are nature based, that are, physical based. I like the meditations where they tell you, you basically focus on each part of your body. So it's like, okay. And then you tense, and then you let it go. And so there's all kinds of different things like that. But at the end of the day, it should be what's going to help you. Like whatever you're choosing as your stress reduction, you should feel less stressed when you're.
It should work.
Yeah. Like I know I have coloring on my list. Like I know Eric, his wife.
Adult coloring books, man. They are and we actually put we have it on the wall. Yeah, we have big coloring pages that we put up. And again, someone mentioned the other day, like, oh, that's so nice for the kids. I'm like, for adults too. Dr. Riley. I'm like, don't you have something to be doing over there? It's another color. Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's just something, again, if you're
like, okay, easy there.
Yeah, it's like we don't think about that, but it's just something that it takes your focus away.
You find enjoyment in it.
Journaling, that's another big one I've used. If you're somebody that ruminates, that has run lists, that especially like type A, if you're just constantly kind of running through everything in your head, overthinking, write it down. You can write it down and keep the journal, or if something like really negative is going on, write it down, rip that page out, and throw it out. Burning things, apparently.
If someone's really, I mean, again,
we should probably not recommend.
If someone's really bothering you, and there's something in a relationship that is really irritating you, and it would be, very negative to actually confront that, write a letter to that person, and then throw it out, like discard it. It's
literally getting those.
You're getting the emotions down.
I think the journaling is big, and we'll jump into sleep, but I think that's a big thing. For me, I figured this out in undergrad. When I would have a test the next day, I would run through stuff in my head. So I knew if I wrote my notes out that night before I went to bed, I would sleep better. So if you find yourself at night, like running through scenarios or stuff like that, write those down and go to bed. And you'll
even if you're one of those people that I don't know how to write about my feelings. Like, you don't have to write about your feelings. Literally write out your list for the next day. Like, whatever is going through your head. Like, okay, tomorrow I have to do this, 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 and this. Boom. Now it's on paper. So it doesn't have to be in your head. And then you can relax.
And then people who wake up at the same time every night, and they're having like this recurring, I'm like, whatever your thoughts are at that point in time, write it down, because something is, something spiritually or mentally, emotionally is waking you up for a reason. So write it down. Usually mine's just bathrooms. That's right. So, and again, there's stress reduction, but there's also don't add to the stress. So one of the easiest things, and I started this in chiropractic school, is turn the damn news off. Like,
social media, get off of it.
Social media can be a great tool, but don't scroll.
Yeah, especially I'd say like leading up to bedtime, that evening time, family time, like when you can be present with somebody. Just put your phone away. Like, disconnect.
Turn the news off. And I was guilty of listening to a lot of political podcasts last year, and it's just like, I need to just purge it and just be done. So, find those areas that you are adding unnecessary stress and just eliminate them. And again, replace them with something else. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's coloring. Maybe it's just deep breathing, meditating, prayer, whatever it is. But find that and just make a commitment for 30 days to just try something different. And if you do it for 30 days, you might find like, hey, I really like this. I'm going to continue it. So that's the stress reduction. And I think that just leads so nicely into the last one, which is sleep. Again, we have whole podcasts on sleep. We've talked about, the actual hormone levels in terms of light, coming up and going down. I think at the end of the day, trying to get that 7 to 8 hours. And I think even more important than the time, the total time is the consistency of time, right? Because that's what helps to match your natural cycle, right? Your natural circadian rhythm. If you're, going to bed at, one time, like 9 o'clock one night, and then at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock the next night, and you keep fluctuating that really impacts your body to get into a healthy rhythm. And again, we all know that we're going to have differences in time, here and there, but on average, we should be trying to get to bed about the same time every night and, wake up about the same time, even if you don't have to get up that same time every morning, because we have different mornings, office schedule versus non-office schedule. So, we don't necessarily have to wake up the same time every day, but trying to do it will help your body's natural rhythm. So, you were talking about leading up, but you were mentioning getting off the screens leading up to bedtime.
The blue light, blue light is huge in terms of, I think, getting into the details of all that, just like internally messes you up just in general. So less screen time all around is pretty good, but you just almost get overstimulated.
You do.
And I catch myself, and I need to be better at on my phone in bed. That's killer for me going to sleep. I'm sitting there and I close my eyes and I can still see my phone screen. That is not beneficial whatsoever.
Yeah, and even if it's on phone screen, I know we're guilty. We have a TV in our bedroom, and but again, my wife actually finds it very relaxing just to turn something mindless on. And there are nights when I have no problem falling asleep, but there are some nights when my mind is a little bit more active that TV keeps me awake. So it's there's set a time and just turn it off. Read, not from a screen, but read a book.
An actual physical book. That is, I think, the quickest way to get into it.
Absolutely.
You want me to finish a chapter?
It is for me until my book starts getting good.
Yeah,
and then I'm up till like 2 a.m.
Start a book every day.
But yeah, so maybe that's another goal that you could set is, try and get to bed at the same time every night, within a half hour. That would be really good. And then try getting up at the same time within a half hour every morning. And even on the weekends, because again, if you're on a weekend and you don't necessarily have to be up, you can always take a nap in the afternoon. A 30-minute nap, a 90-minute nap on the weekend. Very, very highly recommended. Just again, trying to find something to really improve those cycles. And again, you don't have to change the world. Baby steps over time will help with these resolutions that will lead to just a healthier you, a year down the road. So if you want 50, 100, 300% improvement, start, 0.25%, just change something, improve something a little bit each day. You'll be a much different person a year from now. So with that being said, I think we've run quite a bit of information today. So hopefully that helped. You gained something from it, something resonated. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. We have a ton of information on our website, Turo, familychiropractic.com. And we will see everyone at the next one. First inaugural video podcast in the bag. And no one messed up. We'll see you.
You've been listening to another episode of What the Health? The podcast where anything health is fair game. With your hosts, Dr. Dan, Angela, and Dr. Riley. Brought to you by Turo Family Chiropractic. If you'd like to learn more about some of the resources mentioned on this show, or you have questions about something that was discussed, please reach out through our website at www.turofamilychiropractic.com. Remember to like and subscribe to What the Health Podcast to catch all the latest episodes and replay your favorites. Thank you for listening, and remember, we're always here to help when you find yourself saying, "What the hell?"